What's up, everybody? Let me know that you can see and hear me. Let me see if I've got this down pat without Jesse by my side here to take care of all of the media elements there. Anybody? Somebody, anybody. Is it Monday? 5x5, Lady Wolf. I just wanted to hop on for a little while this evening. This show is not going to be about Bigfoot or cryptids or anything like that. So if that's kind of what you're tuned in for, that's not going to be the subject matter for tonight. Also, this show is not monetized. We don't really pull a lot off of YouTube, but we bring in a little bit, and it kind of helps out with the equipment and the investigations and everything like that. But given the subject matter tonight, it seemed kind of ghoulish to kind of monetize it. So monetization's off. So you guys shouldn't see any ads unless YouTube just decides to throw some in for no reason whatsoever. But and again, this was kind of an unplanned show that I just happened to decide to just throw up. And I don't know how to get rid of that little thing with Jesse on there. Let me see. Well, you can tell I don't really know what the hell I'm doing without. Bam, there we go. I don't have a solo one, so. But yeah, kind of what I just wanted to hop on for a little bit tonight, just because I've been kind of thoughtful today. I'm sure everybody at this point is aware of what happened at Devil's Den, the family that was attacked out there. I had like some notes. I'm gonna put my spectacles on here then, but yeah, it's weird. We were at the Smoky Mountain Bigfoot conference when this happened, so we didn't have a chance to really glance at our phones like all day long, and when we got out, even then we kind of rushed right into hanging out with people and stuff like that. So I think it was like the next day that we saw what happened to it out there. And it's really it's kind of really like struck a chord with me, man, for like a few reasons here. It's, and like I said, I was going to just, kind of do this as a smaller show. And then I just said, I figured I'd put it up public. I don't think we'll have a lot of people tonight, but, and tonight, this is going to be kind of just a free form kind of like conversation with me in the chat. Again, so if you're looking for Bigfoot, come back next time. We'll talk about it then. But the Devil's Den thing's really kind of, I don't know, like I said, it struck a chord with me. For those of you who aren't familiar with what happened, it was Saturday. And some of y'all, we were talking at the Discord earlier, Walter Ballard had pointed me in the direction of a video on it. And that kind of reinforced some of the stuff that I've been kind of piecing together earlier, looking through this stuff. But a couple in their 40s, and I'm not going to mention names tonight because, again, I always feel it's the same problem we run into with like missing person cases. There might be something weird going on there, something that's like worthy of looking into. But how do you do that and not, again, just be a ghoul? It's such a sensitive topic to kind of handle respectfully. And even if you have the best of intentions, a lot of times you kind of fumble it. So I'm not going to mention any names. I'm just going to speak mother, father, kids, stuff like that. I know the names are out there and I'm not really doing anything. It's just for my own peace of mind. But there was a married couple in their 40s with 2 daughters. 9 and 7, if I'm not mistaken, that were out hiking at Devil's Fork State Park. If you're if you think that sounds familiar, it's because that's where the Terry Lovelace case happened back in 1977, I think. It's a famous UFO case. The book's called Incident at Devil's Den or something like that. But he and a guy that he was in the Air Force with, there was an alien abduction encounter happened out there. So that's kind of what I immediately thought of for it. But I think it was around, I've heard a couple of different times. I think it was around like 11:30 or so is I think when the first call came in. Basically what happened is that this man and this woman were hiking with their daughters. They had just relocated to the area. The mayor and the town that they currently live in right now said something about that their water at their new house had just been turned on like 2 weeks before. But they're hiking in an area of Devil's Den State Park, and I've never been there. It's not as big as most of the national parks that we investigate in. I want to say it's like 2,500 acres or something like that. I know it has a lot of caves, a lot of really interesting rock structures. It's popular, but there are isolated areas, and there's a lot of the areas don't have cell signal, which unfortunately plays a crucial role in what happened to this couple. And the stories are kind of starting to like fragment a bit right now as I'm hearing them. I'm hearing other versions of the story being told. And I don't know whether that's because new information's coming out or it's just because people are starting to add their own details, playing kind of like fast and free with it. So if I misspeak or anything that we talk about tonight ends up not being true, but so this couple's hiking with their two daughters, and apparently a guy just jumps out of the brush and attacks the father. Stabs him in the chest. First, they said stabbed him in the heart, but later on it came out that it sounds like that he stabbed him in the chest. The mother turns around and looks at the two daughters and goes, "Run as fast and as far as you can. Don't look back." And the daughters take off running, and they hear their mother say, "Why are you doing this?" And then the mother starts screaming, and they ran, they said, until they no longer heard her screaming. It's a horrible story. It's absolutely horrible story. They managed to run a pretty good distance down to the visitor center, and that's when they were able to get in touch with like law enforcement for it. And, one of the things that we always talk about on this show is it's not just remove all of the paranormal threats or the cryptid threats, if they may or may not exist in a particular area out of it. It's still really dangerous, like being out there. You have the environmental dangers like we deal with in Blackthorn. Barbed wire, open wells, sharp metal, sharp glass, all of that stuff. And we've talked about areas that we've gone into that there's been a possibly like hostile human element going on there. And it is, we've ran into some people, we've seen some people that you could just tell were like up to no good at that point. And that's why kind of this thing really kind of struck home to me. We don't really do true crime or anything like that at all. We're never really going to do true crime. But for this, it's nobody really knows what's going on with it at this point. If this was something that was targeted, like this guy specifically was out for these people, and that might be the case. But some other people that encountered this guy, the supposed killer, because again, the park's pretty busy. He was passing people on the trail before he encountered the family that he attacked. Other people like ran into this guy, and they've all universally talked about how one lady just said he had very evil, negative, bad energy. Other people have just talked about how he just had like very piercing, like hostile eyes. It was obvious that the dude was there and he was just giving off like ill intent to everybody that he ran into. And, he was dressed. I mean, I guess it was just as hot up there probably as it is here. I think we were at like 115 today with like the heat index. It's just brutal. And he's wearing like long sleeve black pants, a long sleeve black shirt, fingerless gloves. Everybody's really kind of honed in on that. Baseball cap, some people saw him with sunglasses. Other people saw him with no sunglasses. He had a backpack on, and it looks like threaded through the backpack was like a gym bag of some sort, like a mesh gym bag. But one of the things everybody really commented on was that he was not dressed for hiking. B, everybody was moving pretty slowly because of the heat. And they just said he was just like booking. He was just like walking with a purpose. And as he would walk by people, he'd almost like be sizing them up. One group of people, it was 2 men, 2 women, and they had a large dog with them, said that it seemed like when he went by them, that he was almost like sizing them up for some reason. Maybe he was like considering them as potential victims and then decided not to because of the size of the group and the fact that they had a dog as well. But one of the things that people have also talked about is that the backpack setup he had, really big. And this trail it's less than 2 miles, mile and a half, something like that. You don't really need a huge pack. Maybe you carry like a small pack, some water, especially now, and, maybe a few snacks or whatnot. But that he had like a really good sized backpack assembly on, and it had some weight to it, whatever was in there. I've heard a couple people say that he had something pretty weighty in there, pretty sizable. They could tell by the way that the backpack was setting on his shoulders and how he was walking. He kind of had his hands threaded through the straps as if to kind of like help with like the burden of the backpack then. So, but it's just the whole thing about this has been weird, man. I mean, you don't know what is. There's a couple pretty like gruesome details that I have not been able to really like confirm that I heard. There's a few things that don't seem to make sense as far as like the police response goes. But you know what? It might just be because this is in a rural area. Unfortunately, the reason why people are starting to target these areas like that is because you don't have all of the modern barriers that you have in like a city or even a small town at this point. There's no cell signal, so they're not pinging your cell phone. There's not a ton of cameras around anywhere, license plate readers, everything, ring cameras, security cameras on businesses, cameras that the municipality might put up. None of that exists there. There's a rumor that they caught some footage of him in the parking lot. So I guess they have a camera in the parking lot. But once you get past that, there's no cameras really in most national parks that you know about. And it's just, this really kind of struck home, man. A couple being attacked out of nowhere by somebody. You don't know what the motives are yet, or even if there is a motive. Our buddy Chester Moore that does Dark Outdoors podcast, I shared that on Facebook earlier. I haven't had a chance to talk to him, and he did an episode on this. And Chester always like bangs the drum of the 3 P's that you do before you go out. And his 3 P's are you pray, prepare, and you pack heat. He has a very realistic view of the outdoors, and that's not even adding in any sort of like supernatural or cryptid threat that might or may not exist. But he had mentioned that, and I've heard a few other people mention it as well, and I'm not sure where it originated at, but that there is a line of thought that this may not be the guy's first time doing this. A lot of people have talked about the fact that, for somebody to attack 2 full-grown adults, especially in front of their children, they've got to be pretty familiar with violence. They've got to be pretty comfortable with that. And, meaning that they have committed violent acts in the past, as far as that goes. The fact that this guy, when he made his getaway, his license plate was already taped up means that, doesn't really sound like this was just, he got upset with some people on the trail and it was an argument that escalated. It sounds like he literally went there. This was premeditated. Either it was premeditated towards these particular people, or it was premeditated to just go out there and find a target of opportunity at that point. And, like I said, it's really struck home to me. It's really been on my mind since I heard about it. And as I've learned more the details to it, it is very odd. And Lady Wolf had asked, anybody think a kidnapping gone wrong? Was he after the children? That's another thing you don't know. I mean, the kids got away, obviously, but and again, we're really basing everything that they know on just what the kids have been able to tell you. And these are 7 and 9-year-olds, so who had to go through like a horrible experience. So, I'm sure more details will come out as they're able to talk to people who are qualified to kind of like get those details out of them. But it's, you don't know. You know what I'm saying? You don't know. It, from what I was kind of gathering, and this is why it kind of really struck home with me, is, they had just moved to this area. And it looks like they were doing a lot of hiking when they first got there, because people were sharing like Facebook posts they had made about previous hikes that they had been on. Now, who knows? Maybe they'd been going to this exact trail, every weekend at the same time, you know, um, and maybe somebody was like targeting them, or maybe he was just out there looking for anybody he ran into, and for some reason fixated on them. The kids may or may not have anything to do with it. I don't know. But it's just no matter how you like look at it, it's obviously it struck a nerve with me because it's a couple. It's a man and a woman in the woods. And, they met a very unfortunate end, and it just came out of nowhere, you know. And again, other details might come out as they go along, and it'll maybe kind of fill in some of the gaps. But like Lady Wolf said, the guy's wearing all black. The backwards facing photo of him that somebody was able to get, he was not dressed for a hike in that weather. I wouldn't have gone out like that, and it is, it's concerning. Sheila asked if the girls made it. Yeah, the girls did make it. They're apparently with family members right now. But, one of the things that we run into some weird stuff in the woods. We ran into those people in Devil. I was making sure I had my thoughts in a row here. We had the people in Seawood Manor that we ran into twice, that our friend Sam Burton had a run into, and they basically attacked him and ran him out of the woods when they were setting up for a ritual. Stuff happens, man. That's just not stories. That's just not campfire stories or like just creepypasta that people talk about on podcasts. There has been a resurgence in that sort of activity, like nationwide, maybe worldwide, for all I know. Hell, I don't know. But they're often seeking areas where there's really not a lot of attention. Now, they can kind of sneak in and kind of do their thing without a lot of people paying attention to them. We ran into the group that operates out of North Georgia, even though we kind of pulled out of there for a while because of that activity. We've ran into, I've talked about it a few times. We drove past them on an old like gravel road, the people that were coming out of the woods, and they had that smashed up van with like the skull, like it's like something out of Mad Max, man. And, they look like movie extras, like dirty, like halfway clothed. I mean, they're wearing like modern clothes. They weren't like cavemen or anything like that. But, like one of them had a spear and stuff like that we could tell they were all holding stuff that looked like hand weapons and all that. And Jesse's like, are they shooting like a B horror movie out here? And I'm going, well, there's no camera crew. Is it just the extras out here? So, we've ran into that. That stuff exists, man. That stuff exists. That stuff exists beyond just the usual like serial killer in the wood type thing that you hear about, which is usually what kind of gets the attention, because people have a tendency to be able to accept the serial killer idea more than they can with like a cult or cult activity or anything like super weird like that. But some of the theories that I was hearing, like people bandy around, a couple of them really kind of got me thinking, and I was talking to a few people earlier. I was talking to Denim Devil via text. And then I was talking to a few people on Facebook in the comments section of like Hawk and JD Smooth were on there, and we were kind of just talking back and forth. And some of this stuff really kind of, it's I guess the only way to say it, I know I sound like a broken record, but it really struck a chord with me, Got the names like right here, but some of the theories that are coming out for it are weird, man. They're very, very weird. If you guys remember Travis Decker, that's the guy that I think about 6 months or so ago snapped and unfortunately did harm to his 3 daughters and went on the run, and they haven't been able to catch him. That's in Washington State. There's some theories going around that they thought at first he had gone to Canada, that they never caught him in Canada, that they never saw any trail of him in Canada. Some people are saying that maybe he's like working his way through, and that the little girls that were with his family kind of resembled his daughters. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. One thing that I saw that was really weird, and whenever you're looking into this stuff, just like when we look into like Bigfoot or Dogman or any of the weird stuff we look into, you always kind of look on the edges. You kind of haunt the edges of stuff. You don't necessarily look for news stories to give you all the details, but look at the comments section. Look at forums, message boards. Reddit's a big one nowadays. But one person made an offhand comment on something that I was looking at, that there was a stabbing at a place called Devil's Lake State Park. So this is Devil's Den State Park, okay, in Arkansas, where this happened over the weekend. But there's a Devil's Lake State Park in Wisconsin. And back in 2020, pretty much the exact same thing happened. Somebody jumped out of the brush and stabbed a guy that was there hiking and fled the scene, got away. They never caught him. And as that conversation was unfolding, it seems like there were other types of incidents like that were occurring at places with devil in the name. And that might be something that kind of unfolds over the next little while, especially if it seems like he may have done this in the past. Maybe there's a pattern to this. Maybe he's, hyper fixated on areas with devil in the name. So it's just very weird, man. It's very weird. One of the things I thought about is there's a thing called competitive exclusion, that when two species are occupying the same niche in nature, one's eventually going to outperform the other. It's just, it's just what happens. One is going to be more successful in that particular slice of the environment. And what happens is they push the other species out. They have been excluded through competition. And they learn to adapt and operate in a new environment. And I'm almost thinking, some of these people that are just not wired right are the way a modern American city is set up right now. It's real hard to do anything and get away with it. Just with the sheer number of cameras, stuff I mentioned earlier, your cell phone being pinged, you got a GPS tracker in your car. Every business and home has a security camera on it. Even if they don't catch you at the spot where the crime occurred, they get you going there, they get you leaving. Follow you all the way back there, figure out who you are. And it's almost like law enforcement has, through its own efforts, almost forced some of these criminals out of that environment. And I'm not talking about people, the dumb ones, which the vast majority of criminals are, or the ones that are like crimes of passion or whatnot. I'm talking about the ones that are calculated and smart enough to realize that you can't really get away with what you used to be able to get away with in cities. You have to kind of go where those things don't exist, where that infrastructure doesn't exist. And where is that? It's in the wild places. It's in the wild spots. And I will let the paranormal kind of get into it a little bit, because some of these areas can make a bad person go worse, I think. I honestly think that. I think that some of these areas, there's just an energy there or an intelligence or whatnot, that if you have that seed in you, it can make that seed sprout and can, again, make somebody who has some bad tendencies go full blown, evil, whatever you want to call it at that point. So it's going to be weird. And the way that this story has been covered, the fact that they're talking about how the thing that I heard this afternoon is that there are, criminal justice professors and retired FBI agents going, this might not be solved for decades, if ever. I'm going, if I was a blossoming serial killer sitting at home watching this and go, decades, if ever, looks like I need to go after some people in, state and national forests at this point. It's going to be something that's going to be really easy to get away with if I do it right. So, so that's just kind of on my mind, man. But I'm going to go through the chat here real quick. People saying it was definitely premeditated. Yeah. And it's the one theory that really kind of got me is, and I don't know who this person is. I guess there's a dude named Doug Langley. I will use that name, Doug Langley. And I guess he's a TikTok guy. And I guess he's infamous on TikTok, and he's very unhinged and apparently very aggressive. I only saw one small clip because I guess TikTok keeps kicking him off and then he keeps coming back on. But I guess the sketch that they released of this guy looks pretty close to this Langley dude. Again, I don't know if that's the case or not. I don't know. I don't know anything about him. This might just be a character he plays. I don't know. But, that was the thing that really hit me, is that, there's such an unhinged kind of like tendency, and like, especially like the Bigfoot and Dogman and paranormal communities at this point, that, I'm looking at this going, man, if this is like a social media or like, person that has just been spiraling out of control right in front of everybody's eyes and has finally gotten to the point of doing something, like, where do we go to from there? You know what I'm saying? Because I see that happening right now. I'm quite honestly shocked that there has not been some sort of violence in the periphery of like the Bigfoot paranormal cryptid world right now, just because of the unhinged kind of like language that's coming on. I mean, for God's sakes, how many weeks ago was it that dude did a live stream about Jesse and was admonishing his followers to do what the Bible tells you to do about witches, because she's got that Appalachian granny witch, wood witch thing in her bio on Facebook. And everybody's in the chat going, just come out and blatantly say what you want to say, and we all know what that is. It's that thou shalt not suffer a witch to live thing. And I'm going, I'm looking at this going, man, it's the language is getting really just incendiary. And a lot of it's very, it just kind of comes up on the edge of being something that you could consider a credible threat. It just comes right up to that edge, where you're not coming out saying it, and you've got some plausible deniability, and then you can go, oh, I didn't say for anybody to do anything, but it's all very apparent. And we've had run-ins. We had that guy a couple years ago that was right north of us, that was in some sort of like psychiatric, home, that was talking about coming and chopping us all up. We kind of laughed it off, like we've done most of this stuff, but and that's the thing that, has really been on my mind a lot, man, is that no matter what approach you take to some of these people, it incites them further. It makes them get crazier. If you go back and forth with them, it eggs them on. If you would completely ignore them, that makes them mad. If you kind of laugh it off and make a joke out of it and just hope that it dies down, that incites them further. You know what I'm saying? So, and it's been a real thing that I've had in the back of my head for the past couple of days. And then reading all of this stuff today, I'm just like, man, it's, we keep in mind, Jesse and I are not this couple. You know what I'm saying? We're out in areas where we are out there because we specifically think that there's dangerous stuff out there. And that's what we're out there looking for. We're paranoid as all get out as it is already. We were already like that before we got involved in the YouTube Bigfoot world. And that's only like kind of magnified that at this point. We're armed all the time, especially when we're outdoors and everything like that. And, usually the areas we go to, there's nobody around. So if we do happen to see somebody else, we're instantly on edge. You know what I'm saying? Because we're out there in this area where there's really no outdoor recreation. We're looking for weird stuff. So if we run into somebody out there, either they're out there looking for weird stuff too, or they're out there because they want the isolation and the seclusion to get up to some shady stuff. So, but it's just something that's been kind of, it's really kind of like lodged into my head right now at this point. And I think it's something that we like in the Bigfoot community and the paranormal community and everything like that, we're eventually going to have to like address, you know what I'm saying? I mean, we're eventually going to have to do it. And I know that when I say community, everybody always thinks that it's just like one big homogenous group of people. I go on to like another like YouTube live stream just to say hi to whoever's running it. I don't know 90% of the people in there. You know what I'm saying? There's not really just one big community. There's like, it seems like there's 1,000 communities that are just kind of slightly, associated with each other because of like a similar interest at that point. But it's something that I think the communities are eventually going to have to do. And it's the fact that it's, JD Smooth says it's a lot of it's jealousy. That's always been around, but it's been like the language has changed. You know what I'm saying? It's just, because I see the stuff on Facebook. I don't really do a lot on Facebook. You know what I'm saying? So, but I see the stuff on Facebook. People praying to Jesus to kill their enemies that they have like a disagreement with on YouTube. It's just weird stuff, man. This crazy language. I grew up in the West Virginia border in the mountains up through there. And I remember like snake handling churches when I was a kid, and how the people would talk in these like churches, and just this very weird quasi religious language that was basically just bending the tenets of religion to just basically just, control people, attack people they didn't like or whatnot. But there's a lot of that going on right now, this weird brinksmanship that seems to happen, that we've ran into with a couple of people where just out of the blue, they'll introduce like firearms or memes about firearms into just out of the blue for it. And that always like freaks me out because, I've witnessed firsthand what guns do to people, and anybody who's done that has a healthy respect for it. And anybody who usually does that, I always use the analogy of you see somebody at the supermarket and they're arguing with the cashier that the cashier shortchanged them. And then all of a sudden they just go, well, I got a gun in my car, you're going to immediately just go, well, holy hell, they're bringing that up for a reason, aren't they? And you're seeing a lot of that nowadays, man. So it's just something that, I don't know if it's like fixable, but I do think that it's going to get to the point where, we've had to back away from people because they see nothing wrong with that. You know what I'm saying? They're still friendly towards us and everything like that, but they just seen, oh, he's just that he's just a little, eccentric. This an eccentric dude just brought up firearms into a disagreement. That's comforting to hear. You know what I'm saying? It's just crazy stuff, man. And I'm watching this thing at Devil's Den and I'm going, gosh, was this somebody that they just had what they thought was just like a minor disagreement with? Maybe somebody they cut off in traffic or, got into a parking spot a little before this person did, and it just festered. And then this is how it came out, because I just have these moments every once in a while where I kind of back away from myself and I kind of try to be from the outside looking in, and I go, some of the stuff's crazy, man. We laughed it off, but there was literally a dude online on a live stream with a couple hundred people watching, and not all of them, but some of them are talking real crazy talk. And he's going, well, you know what the Bible says to do to people like that, and they know what he's talking about, and I'm just going, how's that accepted? I mean, if we were to start doing stuff like that, I would expect y'all to like, come give me an intervention, man. You know what I'm saying? Come come rescue me from myself at that point. See what's going on. That's not normal behavior, At the end of the day, this is a topic that's supposed to be interesting, and it's okay for us not to agree with each other. There are people that are just, that think what we do is kind of silly because they're just all into the gorilla thing. There's a gorilla in the woods. We might think each other's methodologies are silly, but if they caught a gorilla in the woods one day in a cage and they're going, look at this, Joe, I'd be like, damn, you were right the whole time. Good for you, man. Well, now we know what to focus in on. We got the gorilla part down. Now we're going to keep looking into this weird stuff at this point. But, it's just weird. And this isn't to incite anybody up because I don't want anybody that like follows us to like fall prey to this. But I think it is something that we need to kind of start talking about as a community because the world itself is getting crazy. Okay. And it's the world itself is very pressurized right now. And the cryptid community. And what's crazy is you go to these conferences where there's thousands of people. Everybody's as like nice as they can be. You don't have, at least I haven't experienced anything like that. I think I've ran into like 2 rude people. and we haven't done a ton of conferences, but I think I've ran into like 2 rude people, and I think one dude was just an a-hole because I think like his wife or something like that drug him there, and he was probably an a-hole to everybody he met at the damn thing. But, you don't really see that. So I don't think that the people that are like that really maybe go out a lot. But at the same time, I was talking to our buddy Denim Devil, who's in the chat sometimes. And, he's just talking it out through me and everything. And I go, well, man, I mean, some of this weird stuff that's happened, if we were out like in the woods and something happened weird like this, like something violent like that, and then you look back and you go, damn, I ignored a lot of red flags along the way. I ignored a whole lot of red flags along the way. People staging firearms in their videos when they're talking about us, people posting memes about shooting and everything like that. I mean, that's crazy. That's not normal. You know what I'm saying? That's really not normal. And anybody out there that like thinks that's a normal thing to do and you behave in that, I just, please excuse us from your support there. Do you know what I'm saying? I mean, at the end of the day, let's keep it all in perspective. This is not something that you have a lot of, we don't have a lot of ego over, we're pretty mystified by the entire topic. It's not like I'm arguing that we're right and other people are wrong. I don't know what the hell's going on with a lot of this stuff, but it just seems like maybe we're starting to see more of that because it's accepted in the communities. It's accepted. It's allowed to kind of come in and breathe and foster. And, I got somebody like low key threatening to, bringing guns into the situation. And then people that I know later on are calling him brother, wishing him a happy birthday. And I'm just going, well, that's kind of weird, it's weird behavior. And I don't know if it's just because these communities, the paranormal, Bigfoot, Dogman, all of that, we're so accepting of each other because at the end of the day, we're all outsiders that maybe we kind of just accept that because that's the thing. But, it's really weird. And, at the end of the day, a lot of this is just something that's like, it's on my mind. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we're super paranoid people. We got like cameras everywhere. When we're in the woods, we're like armed to the teeth, y'all have seen it. I'm not real big on like, drawing my sidearm, but I'll pull it out if I think it's necessary. So again, we're not like these like, helpless people. Oh, come help us. But, there's a lot of people in the communities that are not like us, that are not, there's a lot of people that do this stuff that purposely go unarmed to do it. And we're not that involved in like social media outside of like YouTube. And a lot of other people are very involved. And I'm going eventually, like somebody's going to really kind of like run into a similar problem like this couple did. That somebody's going to run into something that everybody that's in the community and aware of this is going to look back on and go, oh, yeah, we could see that we should have seen that was going to be a problem eventually, and it's just to the point where, I don't know, man. I mean, I know that we are, after all of this, I'm doing some editing of our contact list, basically. You know what I'm saying? And that's just, again, it's not necessarily for a fear or anything like that at all, because again, it's I certainly don't want to get involved in anything like that would have like bad consequences. Nobody in their right mind wants to, you know what I'm saying? But at the same token, Jesse and I are people that do really dangerous stuff on like the regular. So we don't really like live in fear of stuff like that. But it's weird because I'm looking at this going, eventually these people are going to fixate on people who aren't as capable of taking care of themselves. And that's when we're really going to see maybe something happen, So I got a couple things here I'm going to kind of go through. Oh, thank you. I wasn't really looking for super chats tonight, but thank you very much. And again there, thank you so much. Contacts are dry. So we got here. The internet has allowed a lot of crazy people who were once alone to gather in groups, thus increasing everybody's level of crazy. Yeah, but here's the deal. Usually they're kind of pariahs. And I'm going to be honest with you. I'm pretty shallow. I don't have a lot of interests outside of this stuff. I'm a pretty one-dimensional person. I'm into weird stuff. I'm into like looking for weird stuff. So if I wasn't doing this show right now, I'm researching like a new camera system to do what we do with. and I'm trying to like get our like long duration audio recording thing done back up because we had a bunch of stuff stolen off our porch. And then all of the stuff went on where you really couldn't get stuff from overseas. But anyway, I'm trying to get that kind of going back on again. That's my leisure time. Okay. So I don't really know what people do in like the bird watching communities or the, you know, people who are really into playing cards. I don't know how they handle this sort of stuff, but I do know that it's something that is, you know, it was something that was already kind of like nagging me at the back of the mind. And then the Devil's Den thing happened. And I'm just like, you know what? I wonder if it's going to come out later on that there were some red flags with somebody that this couple decided to kind of overlook and just to kind of like make excuses for. And maybe there were other parties involved that were just going, oh, he's not going to do anything. That's just how he is. Da, 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 da. He's a good guy. You know, I'm wondering if that's going to come out like that. If that's maybe some of what's happened at this point. But it's happening right now. I'm going through and I'm editing our contact list. Okay. There have been some people that, you know, I'm not asking for anybody to make any decision to like, you know, do anything. I'm not doing anything. I'm just kind of going, if you're associated with some of these people that act like this, I don't really have faith in your judgment that you would look at somebody like that and go, that's okay. And I just don't think I want to have anything more to do with that. We're not really down for like online drama. Things happen. We have a tendency to kind of laugh them off, you know. Twice there's been kind of like weird threats that I thought that we should kind of bring public attention to just in case anybody decided to act out on them. But if you guys remember the guy that was going to come chop us up from North Carolina, called us pagan lib scumbags, and we use that as our titles under our show. We just laughed it off, man. You know, what are you going to do? You're going to get into like online arguments with crazy people that you've never met or talked to in real life, you know? So we're kind of going through and doing that, you know, and it's kind of a shame because some of these people are people that, you know, I'm fond of, but it's just gotten to the point now where I'm just going, come on, man. People that are that eccentric and that quick to start acting crazy. Nobody needs that drama in their lives, man. There's too much of that stuff in here. I would so much rather just see these communities kind of coalesce together and not just over Bigfoot. Oh, he thinks Bigfoot comes through portals. Let's excommunicate him. Not over that. But anytime anybody's like, just, you know, starting to make like physical threats or starting to like incite other people to violence, or the weird thing is like, after we did that charity drive, there were people that were openly praying on like Facebook for us to burn all of us to burn in hell. And I'm going, I'm doing a charity drive, you know, trying to like laugh off some weirdness, man, trying to take some bad stuff and turn it good. And, you know, that's the weird thing is that you've also got these people that are not really religious in their private lives that are adopting these very puritanical like speech patterns that are all just like hellfire, brimstone, you know, stone the sinners and everything like that. So I don't know, man. And again, I'm not doing anything. What's so cool is we've got so many just like badass people that are around us. You know what I'm saying? When that Larry guy that you know, Josh Turner always has problems with, the roofer dude, had posted that gun meme at me, and I'm just like, why are you bringing firearms into this? You know what I'm saying? A bunch of people that we know were just like, you son of a, well, you know, I'm not asking for anybody to do anything like that. We don't need to do anything like that. But I do think that we just need to start looking at people and just go, hey, this ain't cool. I don't want to be associated with this if something eventually comes of it. Because I'm going to tell you right now, I'm just gonna be honest with you. I mean, we all know who some of these people are that like make these like kind of covert, you know, wink, 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 nudge, nudge threats that have some plausible deniability, but it's plain as day what they're saying. And again, there's a lot of people that are not as capable as Jesse and I are out there in the community. And if one of them ends up getting like hurt by one of these people down the road, and nobody said anything and everybody just kind of excused it and just left it alone, I'm gonna feel pretty crappy. You know, I'm gonna kind of look back on it and go, wow, we all should have taken that a lot seriously. So everybody make your own decision for it. But like I said, If you were somebody who's still friends with some of those people and you wonder why we are no longer responding to you, just be aware that's why. You know what I'm saying? And we wish everybody the best. And I'm not looking for anything like that. But I just think that this really just brought home that that it's just enough, man. It's enough. I mean, especially around Helmet Holler. We had a really diverse crowd at Smoky Mountain, and it's the way it's supposed to be. You guys notice we don't talk politics. We don't talk anything like that at all. You know what I'm saying? We don't talk anything like that at all because the whole goal is that we're both hyper focused on this stuff. You know, these are the biggest mysteries and the biggest questions in the world to us, and everything else kind of falls by the wayside. Even if it's something that affects you personally, we're still trying to focus on like bigger topics. And the idea is that, and you see it in this chat right now, there's some of y'all out there that are on the political spectrum on the opposite ends. This gives you guys a way to kind of come together and kind of talk about a subject that you both love, and you start to realize that you have more in common with each other than maybe you realized at the end of the day. So, you know, and that's kind of what we want to kind of go for. I'm not like being a hippie kumbaya type guy. But at the same token, just all of this like really negative, like hostility stuff, man, this is a wake up call, at least for me. It's got to go. It's just got to go. It's got to go at this point. And you know what? If that, again, I didn't monetize this video tonight for a reason. You guys don't have to super chats. Don't do anything like that. I'm not trying to monopolize, you know, make money off of like this topic, but it's, and it's not anything about like being popular. I mean, if we were just looking for sheer popularity, we would have pursued some of the TV offers that have come our way. You know, we would have looked pretty silly doing it, but we would have done it if popularity was the only thing we were really looking for. The whole goal of this was just to kind of expand the resources we had and expand the group of like-minded people and look into some of these topics, man, you know? And I think it's pretty safe to say especially at the last conference, for those of you, the guys that met us face to face, feel free to say if we're putting on a front or not. This is pretty much just who we are. We're pretty obsessive. If Surviving the Strange is in there, I talked that dude's ear off about weird stuff after the conference, man. You know, I mean, it's pretty much, we're pretty much what you see right here. We're weirdos who are hyper fixated on weird stuff. The paranormal Bigfoot dog, man, that's pretty much just, you know, I can't talk to you about baseball. I don't watch football. I don't watch network television. I know I haven't seen the latest Marvel movie, but I can talk to you for like Bigfoot for like hours if you want to. So, anyway, so that's just, you know, that's just all we've got out there, man. And, I do want to say, I got to get new contacts. My contacts drying out. Joni, I'll be a Huckabay member for 4 months. Thank you so much for the membership, Joni. We appreciate it. So, yeah, I don't know, man. You guys tell me if I'm crazy or not, but I'm looking at this just going, for me at least, it's a wake up call. It's a wake up call that, and I'm aware of this, we've had some brushes with other people in very remote wilderness areas that had the potential to turn bad very quickly. I'm not naive. I'm not naive. Okay. But just when I'm running through the possibilities of what might happen in this case, and then I'm just comparing it to what I see take place, you know, on the fringes of these communities, and how a very large percentage of people that I otherwise have respect for kind of just allow it. And they're not saying it themselves, but they, you know, they obviously don't see any problem with it, you know? And, you know, I just think it's time to kind of, Joe, you're crazy. But I just think it's time to kind of, I don't know, just kind of, Jesse had that great line when she was interviewing with Dave Schrader, and he asked her how she dealt with people, because he knows how people get very fired up on this, you know what I'm saying? And she had that line of, he goes, where do you draw the line in the sand or something? And she was just like, well, you know, these people can't draw a line on the sand because they've never been on the beach. Basically talking about how a lot of people don't really do this stuff. So, you know, you can't really speak in like certain, you know, terms when you're not really doing this stuff, you know. I'm speaking in certain terms right now. I do this stuff. I think that we have like a crazy people problem that goes beyond just joking around, goes beyond just making some jokes at each other's expense. You know, I've got friends that I call apers, and they call me like a woo crazy person and stuff like that. It's done in good nature. You know what I'm saying? I have people that think that Jesse and I have a team of special effects people and a camera crew, and everything you see is fake. And we're all in this for the money. You know what I'm saying? That opinion doesn't hurt me or affect me, you know? And I wish we had a team of people helping us do that. That would be freaking amazing. But I just, stuff like that doesn't like really affect me. You're going to get that no matter what you're involved with, but just the crazy behavior, man, it's just time to kind of just walk away from it. At least us, we're walking away from it. We're walking away from all of that stuff. If it chooses to pursue us, so be it. But it's people that have like way too much time on their hands. And a lot of these people, I'm not even sure how they got involved with the paranormal or Bigfoot or anything like that. They don't really seem to have any like interests in it. There's no money in this stuff. You know what I'm saying? I'm lucky to kind of have some stuff coming in from our memberships to help out with equipment and batteries and SD cards and stuff like that. But we both still work full-time jobs, the conference we just went to, that was a monetary loss for us. You know what I'm saying? So we gave away merchandise. We got a bunch of cool stuff from people, but we gave like merchandise away, what we had left, and somebody did pay from my bar tab, however, and I still don't know who it was. The bartender would not tell me who bought my potato skins and my 3 vodka sodas that I had. So if it's one of you in the chat, I appreciate it. He wouldn't tell me who did it. So, but it's just like with the crazy stuff, man, it's just time. And hopefully some people out there will hear this and kind of, maybe it makes sense. Maybe it makes sense where I'm coming from. And you guys maybe decide to do the same thing, don't excommunicate anybody because they think Bigfoot is different than you, and don't do it because they're approaching it differently than you, and don't do it because, oh my God, I think they're making money off of this. Do you know what I'm saying? It's just, but the people with the crazy incendiary talk, if I see somebody with extremely long 1,000-word rants begging Jesus to destroy someone that they're having a disagreement with over a Bigfoot channel, I'm going to block you and I'm going to walk away from you. Okay. And even, and if I see that like somebody is friends with them that I know, I'm going to probably block you and walk away from you as well. You know what I'm saying? I want to just kind of try to excise that out of my life entirely at this point. It's just, there's no upside to it. And based on what we saw this weekend, there's a real chance there could be a big downside to that sort of stuff, man. And the thing that really gets me is that if they were posting, if that couple from Devil's Den, if they were posting pictures of where they were hiking at, and they had a pattern that could be identified, and this was targeted, that's really why we don't really tell anybody our locations. I'm friends with many of you out there, and I don't tell you guys our locations, because I understand how things can sometimes spread with the best of intentions, but still spread. And at the end of the day, Jesse's a badass, but I'm responsible for her. I'm responsible for her safety. So that's why we don't tell people where we go to. And if people are very insistent upon finding out where we're at, I have a tendency to kind of block them and move on, because there's no point in it. Okay. We're in a weird place. We're looking for Bigfoot. Here's a name for you. No, I'm not going to show you on the map where we're going to be at every weekend. It's just not too. What was this about J.C. Johnson? J.C. Johnson used to say the most elusive cryptid is the check writer. Anyway, but I don't know, man. You guys tell me. Surviving the Strange, the only Bigfoot people I know that are in this chat. That's the real cool thing about what we do, is that we've got so many people that are into this stuff and are like really big supporters of what we do, that we're their only like exposure to weird stuff. They're not like Bigfoot people, that's for some reason what we do kind of struck a chord. Maybe you originally got into it because of how handsome I am. Maybe you thought we were very funny or intelligent or something like that. And then we kind of sucked you in. But Patty G, not telling people where you go is one of your smartest decisions ever. And we don't. We were at the LBL doing live streams. People knew we were there. And somebody, and it's one of 2 people, I think, is the possible culprits, called, and it's not easy to get in touch with law enforcement there. So this was a real effort. This wasn't just picking up the phone and making a phone call. They probably got transferred a few times and probably had to call a couple calls back, but called the law enforcement rangers down there and made a complaint about us. And when we were at the large furnace that's down there on the side of the road, we got out, we're standing there looking at it, and the ranger pulled right up to us, got out, and, you know, I was just like, you're obviously looking for us. I mean, she's 5'2" with a blue streak, and I'm 6'3" with a white beard. You're looking for us if you stop to talk to us, because that description is very unique, you know. And it turned out somebody had called in that we were, you know, threatening people, doing all sorts of crazy stuff, but it was all because we ticked somebody off that we were looking for Bigfoot at the LBL. Now, when you're at the LBL, you can't, I mean, when you're at the LBL, you're at the LBL, you know, and we already have some contact in place with the park authority or the recreation area authorities there, so that won't really be a problem going forward. You know what I'm saying? They're a little bit more aware of what we're doing down there, thankfully, thanks to some contacts we've made. So, but at the same time, that's one of the things that worries us. You know, we got doxxed at that cemetery up in the Uwaris when we were doing that ghost thing. And that was just lighthearted. We're having a good time, man, you know. But one of the people that does stuff around the Uwaris was upset that we had people watching us, and they made mention of calling the police on us. And here's my concern is that we're weird people doing weird stuff in weird places in the dark at weird hours of the night, and we're armed. And all that takes is one phone call going, hey, these crazy people are shooting guns over here. And you're going to have law enforcement showing up kind of jacked, kind of like, you know, ready for confrontation. And that's when mistakes happen. And when mistakes like that happen, I don't want to get, you know, I don't want to suffer the consequences of those mistakes, all because somebody was like slightly jealous over a live stream, you know. And it just seems like it's built since then. That's how it started. And now there's like staging of firearms, all this weird, you know, Lord smite my enemies talk. I don't know. And I just, you know, I'm looking at the freaking witness sketch of the guy at Devil's Den, and then the photo of him from the rear wearing his backpack and all black and all that. And I'm going, damn, he looks like somebody from the Dogman community, man. He would not really like stand out in a grouping of some of these people. You know what I'm saying? You know? And so it's just something to kind of watch out for. Anyway, I'm going to kind of go through here a little bit. And Greg, I hope you are on the path to recovery there, my friend. We are, if you're able, we're doing Tennessee Wildman. Tennessee Wildman is an awesome event. It's awesome. It's so awesome in McMinnville, Tennessee. It's so cool. We pretty much just hang out with like the Hellbenders that come there, you know, and it's a cool event. If you're feeling better, hopefully maybe you could make that. If not, we're going to probably do some Hellbender gatherings. They're going to be vetted pretty damn well, especially given how crazy it is right now. Squatchers getting swatted now. Jesus. Anyway. Sue Powell, I was impressed with Joe and Jesse's tech-savvy investigations. Thank you. Jesse's getting the next Blackthorn thing done. We told all you guys this was going to be a crazy couple of months. 2 conferences, Jesse's documentary, then the documentary that she did. Let me back this up a little bit. I'll give you some behind-the-scenes type stuff. We talked to Small Town Monsters about doing a special, is what they called it. You know, we'll do a special. Just because we have very good relationships with all of them. We're friends with several of them, you know, and we've had really good working relationships with some of them. So we talked about doing a special on that. And we decided to do the Uwaris because I thought the Uwaris would be easy, which was the worst mistake I ever made in my entire life, because I thought it would take about 2 weeks. It took about 2 months. The storms have been so crazy in this part of the country, and that pushed us back. And then it got hot, and then the snake population blew up, and it was just really challenging to do. We had a lot of equipment issues, and Jesse had just a nightmare time editing this. there were a couple times where I was almost just getting ready to go, when's our deadline? Let's just scrap everything we've got. Audio issues, stuff wouldn't match up. And I didn't think she was gonna be able to do anything. And she like over delivered on this. You know what I'm saying? She really over delivered. And people and that's why she, did an interview with Dave Schrader, Darkness Radio with Tim Dennis. Other people saw it and they were like, wow, I want to talk to this chick. This is crazy. This is not just like a Bigfoot YouTube video. This is something like wild that we don't usually see. So anyway, you guys knew that we were going to be kind of busy for a couple months, but it unfortunately became much more involved than I expected. But Jesse's working on the next like Blackthorn thing. We had some equipment issues on that one too. So the audio, we're only working off the shotgun mic that was on the camera. So we don't have that real clear lavalier audio. Usually we were able to catch ourselves speaking and then separately anything that's happening around us. It's kind of the old school way we used to do it. There's just one microphone doing it there, but she should have that out pretty soon. Definitely before the Tennessee Wildman Conference. So Greg Roberts, Jesse, and Joe are able to catch so much more because they don't have a crew stomping through the woods that makes them better. We were talking to at the Smoky Mountain Conference. We're like the only non-TV people there speaking, and it's weird talking to some of them because all of those shows have like big crews. You know what I'm saying? They've all got big crews. They've got like, they've got sound guys, TV guys, security guys, a lot of times the insurance for the TV show insists that they have like medical, assistants, like medics on staff there. Some of them insist that they have bear guards if they're in areas with like brown bears, somebody around that can handle bear attack. A lot of times insurance for these shows won't let the actors be armed, but it will allow trained professionals to be around them to do it. But they got a big crew. And it was just kind of weird talking to them because a couple of them surprisingly had seen our stuff, were familiar with the stuff that we did. And one of them actually was really familiar with the stuff that we did and had actually seen the trailer for the documentary and seen all of our LBL stuff and everything like that. But they were really just shocked that it was just really just the two of us, and I'm going, no, I carry the camera. Jesse does this. We both do. I do audio review. Jesse does the video review. Then she cobbles everything together. She edits it, does the graphic design, this. So it was just kind of crazy when we were talking to everybody to know how it is on the other side of the tracks there. Jesse's been busy with her press tour. She has been actually. So did Lady Wolf get somebody in the chat here? Did I miss something? Usually it's easier when Jesse and I were so. Yeah, Jesse met this guy named Tampa J at the Smoky Mountain Bigfoot Conference. I guess he's a vlogger. He was a very nice guy. He's a vlogger, so he travels around and films himself. So kind of like what we do. But they talk to cameras for a little while. It's pretty cool. She was showing him some of the camera stuff that she uses. So see what else we got here going on. I'm not gonna keep y'all on too terribly long, but a buddy hunting for hookers outdoors. Watch returning to your vehicle. Somebody knew my truck from YouTube, was there at my truck when I get back and said, hey, Cornbread, nice guy. Could have been a weirdo. Without getting into specifics, we have something set up around our vehicle. I'm not going to say it publicly, but yeah, we make sure that our vehicle is watched out for, and we make sure that nobody is doing anything where they can possibly do anything to our vehicle without being noticed or put anything on our vehicle. Mr. Boo Bear, have you guys ever thought about doing a full behind the scenes of the process you guys do? Maybe an edited one, because again, I know I always sound like a broken record, and I know it sounds like I'm whining, and I don't want to sound like I'm whining because we choose to do all of this, but we both work. So we work so that way we have money to do all this stuff. And then whatever we get from like YouTube memberships, super chats, anything like that. And the vast majority of the stuff we get like that is from memberships and super chats. YouTube is going through a thing where you, unless you're Mr. Beast, you know, you really don't get a lot of money from like YouTube views. Okay. But whatever we get from that, we throw that towards of equipment, and then we're paying for equipment. I'm getting ready to buy a camera out of my pocket because, you know, we weren't really active for a while. So our memberships went way down. So, we have people that are really supportive of it, like, you know, the holler ballers and the paladins and everything like that. And, but so it's very chaotic a lot of times. Like our front room is piled up with equipment, and then our bags from the conference, because we haven't had a chance to do anything with them. And I was going to try to like maybe clean them up this week, and then I'm like, well, we're going to this next conference, I might as well just wait till afterwards. It's very chaotic because it's always a time thing. It's always a time thing. We don't really have a lot, because like we're getting a lot of offers for cool stuff right now. There's a couple of people that are talking to us about wanting us to come to like conferences and festivals and whatnot. And I'm just like, we can't do it. We don't have like spare time. So if we take time to do that, that time's got to come away from something else. And I got to work. So it can't come from that. I don't get a lot of sleep, so it can't come from that. But it's a very chaotic structure. Although I will tell you this right now, we ran into so many difficulties doing the UARI thing, so many equipment issues. And then Jessie is 10 times the editor that she was before she went into this UARI project, because she had to become like that. Otherwise, nothing was going to come out. She took 60 hours of video and cobbled it down to about an hour and 40 minutes of just craziness. And if you saw the Tim Dennis interview, he watched it, and he watched it twice, and then he wanted to have her on, and then he watched it again after the interview was done. So Tim Dennis watched it 3 times. I don't know how often Dave Schrader has watched it, but Dave Schrader has been extremely cordial, and what a nice guy. Just a super cool dude. But he has been a very, very complimentary of Jessie publicly after this. So it's not like the typical documentary type thing where there's like 30 minutes of like filler, you know, the UARI is located deep within the heart of North, that sort of stuff. That's not there. Most of that happens through the actual investigations, people just saying it, like we'll say it, or MK was with us for a big part of it. He was like our local guide and field producer, but it's not that. There's like no filler to it. There's no real B-roll. There's no real like CGI Bigfoots. It's all just action. It's freaking crazy. But she became very, very, very good at it. Very good at it. Anyway, Nathan from the Quantum Show. We met him. He's going to be at McMinnville. Very good. Mr. Bowie wants to see that tick picking in the hotel. We haven't got hit by ticks too badly, but chiggers like got us like you wouldn't believe, man. When we went out to get that damn rock, when I went out to get the damn rock, that's when we got just eaten alive, and that was like 2 weeks of just misery at that point. Let's see what else we got. How about a blooper reel? Most of the blooper stuff actually ends up in the video. And that kind of goes to the editing thing, and I'm gonna wrap up here shortly, but to the editing thing, the whole goal of this project was to show people that there was weird stuff going on out there. That's just stuff's really happening, but present it in like an enjoyable manner, because that's how it should be presented. This should not be a boring topic. This is the coolest topic in the world. It's the coolest topic in the world, and the coolest people in the world are involved in this stuff. Like, it's look at our chat, for God's sakes. It's the coolest people in the world. So it should be entertaining. It should be fun. This is some weird stuff. There's like mysteries, like walk in the woods around us, but all the blooper stuff usually goes in there. Like me falling up to my hip in the ground, in that hole and nearly breaking my leg. Jesse stepping in scat constantly, The only thing we don't really include is when I have a meltdown, there's a lot of like 4-letter words. So anyway, MK could film you filming Jesse. It could be totally a behind the scenes episode. Terry's talking about, I went to the Wild and Weird TNT workshop last year. Somebody complained to the authorities about us being there. Yeah, you know, some people just do that. But what we've ran into, it has been targeted from other people who believe themselves to be personalities in the cryptid community, you know. And I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you, man. It's that's why I always say that, like, you know, there's no ego on our part, because we feel very humbled and small next to a lot of this stuff. But that is not the Scorpius, wish you use Patreon. I'm against YouTube taking 33% off every dollar I get. Yeah, but I mean, you know, here's the deal. When we started this, we were a lot smaller, and the problem with, as fickle as YouTube is, Patreon at the time especially was deplatforming people left and right. So it was like the lesser of two evils at that point. Jesse down the road will probably do something to kind of migrate us off these and kind of host our own stuff. I don't know. But we will see as this evolves. And let's see what else we got here. Well, let's see what else we've got. Is it 11 days till it comes out? I don't know. I'm going to tell you right now that it is going to be if Jerry wants to know, how can I contact you about donating equipment to you, full spectrum camera, video cameras, and other things. You can reach out to us at helmetholler@gmail.com. We are pretty well geared up on a lot of stuff. I have very specific equipment things. And I don't want and the same thing with any of this stuff. I was telling somebody earlier, don't ever donate anything that you can't like afford easily. You know what I'm saying? Again, we'll get by one way or the other. I mean, we appreciate the support definitely, but I don't want anybody to ever put themselves out for a couple of weird Bigfoot hunters here. So Moondog, I forgot about that. Moondog, did you guys get any? Did you get any tsunami? Was there a tsunami? I don't know. Jesus protects the surf bumps. All right. Let's get down through here, because I'm going to wrap it up here in just a couple minutes, folks. Thank you guys for joining me. And if you guys have any ideas on this thing, we kind of migrated off the topic of it, but this Devil's Den thing, if you guys have any ideas or theories or anything like that, I don't delve into true crime too much. I think it's, the word for the night is ghoulish. I think it's kind of ghoulish. I think it's people profiting off. I know people have an interest in it. There's a missing persons case that we think is weird as all get out, that we think is similar to some of the stuff we've discovered before in the LBL, as far as like the tent goes and everything. And we're trying to figure out a way to like explore it more, but to not just be just disrespectful like a-holes with it. So, all right. If anybody's got anything, throw it up right now. And we will. Hope loves the true crime mysteries. Yeah, it's just that when I was watching stuff to kind of see what was going on with this Devil's Den thing, I don't have an appreciation for the true crime like YouTuber method of doing things. It just seems it's very insincere, which makes it that much more kind of, I don't know, inappropriate. And I just felt kind of dirty watching some of them, just going, you know, I don't know. I mean, you got to make a living, I guess. And if you're really into that stuff, that's great. But that's why I made sure to like set this one, just because we touched about the topic a little bit, to just have, not have any sort of monetization on this video tonight whatsoever. So, Anyway, see what else we got here, and then we'll wrap it up. A couple quick things here real quick. Okay, thank you, buddy. I did not see that. And then Monica Rockstar Johnson Evans. Thank you, Monica. Monica was at the conference with us as well. So anyway, all I'm asking is everybody that's watching this right now, you're in the cryptid communities, you're in the Bigfoot communities, Dogman communities, whatever. Maybe all I'm asking is maybe give some thought to what I've talked about tonight, and maybe see if maybe you think I'm crazy, and maybe we're just being that threats like that, or maybe we're overly sensitive, and maybe we're not cut out for this community. I don't know. If that's what it's turning into, maybe we need to go do something else. Maybe keep doing the investigations, but just back away from the public aspect of it. All things run their course in time, and maybe the community is changing and we're not changing with it, and that might be where we're headed towards, and I don't know. But I have faith in people that are in this like community, and I don't think we're heading in that direction. At least we shouldn't be. So just maybe think about it. And we are going to maybe hold on a second. Blueberry. Put this up real quick. We will, weather permitting, maybe doing a live from the field real soon. So we're going to end on this. Blueberry said, did you see the video calling out David Paulides and the missing 411 cases? I did. A lot of that is stuff that was already known. I didn't see the whole, let me back up. I didn't see the whole thing. I saw the first few minutes of it. I am aware of how David Paulides left the police department. I've been aware of that for years. And there's a lot of room for interpretation in that on maybe what happened. It's not like he was like manipulating evidence, sending innocent people to jail. There could be said that there was some like maybe some miscommunication on what was or wasn't allowed. I ain't going to lose any sleep over somebody soliciting signatures like autographs. I got bigger problems in my life. I know that to me, Missing 411, the first few books, right up to about the sobering coincidence, which dealt with like a lot of the smiley face stuff. And matter of fact, some of the stuff that may be associated with what happened over the past weekend at Devil's Den. I just think that maybe sometimes you get so involved in this stuff, you start seeing patterns that maybe other people don't see, or maybe you start to just kind of getting so wrapped up into it, everything looks like a mystery to it. Like those people that see Bigfoot behind every stump. I do know this is that this conversation tonight aside that we had, I don't like the circular firing squad nature of this community. And I don't necessarily like people who are solely devote themselves to debunking. I think that people should make up their own minds on stuff. And I know that people sometimes look at stuff that I think is blatantly fake and they believe it. What am I supposed to do? Spend all of my time convincing those people that something is blatantly fake? If they don't have the judgment to perceive that for themselves, why am I doing it for them? And what am I going to do? Spend all my time doing that? And then what am I going to do about the other 20 fakes that come along while I'm doing that? Here's the deal. Most of the debunking is not done for the sake of the truth. It's because people are jealous because somebody's getting attention and they want to take them down a few pegs. So if, I think definitely especially the early Missing 411 stuff, it's really impactful. It's really interesting. You know what I'm saying? Is there some editing of the cases going forward? Appears to be, you know what I'm saying? Does that mean that there's not a missing persons phenomenon, but maybe it was expanded upon a little bit to keep the ball rolling for a little bit? Possibly. I don't know. But, like I said, I just don't, I look at stuff like that and I always just go, I don't think that people that do a lot of that stuff approach it with the best of intentions. And at the end of the day, there's probably things that I think are real that y'all look at and think are like blatantly fake, so to each his own on that, man. So, all right, I'm wrapping up, y'all. I appreciate y'all joining me tonight. Keep your notifications on. Jessie is probably going to have that video done pretty soon. She's having to work around the audio stuff. Again, some of you out there, if I am no longer responding to your comments, maybe you know why now. Okay. We're going to kind of retreat from some of the more negative aspects and the going out there in the community and some of the people that support that. So there you go. And then, like I said, keep your notifications on. We might try to do a live from the field if the weather cooperates with us. So anyway, y'all have a good night. I appreciate it. And let me know if you guys have any like theories or anything like that on this case. It's really kind of hit me somewhere. You know, it's kind of made an impact on me. So anyway, you all have a very good night. I appreciate you joining me, and everybody get some sleep.